Okay, everybody, this is week 6 lecture. So I just saw all of you in class just now, and I will be uploading the video based on some of the comments that I received, and I'll be uploading them earlier tonight on Fridays after your tutorials. All right. Um, However, I see that a lot of groups are also just watching the lecture slides just before the class or even during the class. If a lot of people are not going to be watching the videos earlier, then um, I don't really see a reason why I should be putting so much effort to be able to give you the videos earlier. So I hope that if by doing this that everybody will be also be that everybody will be able to start watching the videos at least earlier so that you can spend more time working on the activities with your group mates. Alright, so that's something that I would like to let everybody know at the start. Okay, so first things first, we are moving into week 6. Alright, so hopefully you with this video you can start working on it over the weekend as a group and start talking to each other and communicating with each other in terms of what's the direction you want to take to moving forward. Alright. So first things first, I'd like you to have a look at what we're talking about here with some changes. The changes are due to some of the logistics with LTA as well as your other professors, Prof. John and team. Where you realize that now we are at week 5, which is what we've done the data analysis. All right, we're going to go into week 6, which is the visualization of data. We're going into your recess week, your ideation stage, and then your formative presentation. All right, so you present once at your formative presentation. You'd have 2 weeks to do prototypes, do some testing, and then we'll come to your final presentations. Okay, so that's the first major change. So for those who are wondering about when is the class going to be, all right, I mean, when is the presentation is going to be, the presentation is going to be at week 9. All right, I will talk you through some of the, I guess, deliverables or things that you want to present by then. We're going to just be doing 5-minute quick presentations, all right, showcasing all of the works that you've been doing or your data collection. You'll be using some of the tools of your data visualization next for this week and your data analysis that you've done in the past 2 weeks as well as all the data collection that you've collected. All right. So all of this will be used to be able to present for your presentation at week 9. All right. At week 9, you have 2 weeks to be able to come up with a prototype, do some testing, and then showcase your findings in terms of what you'll be looking at for that. All right. So moving on to this week's lecture, so the week 6 lecture. All right. Like I said, we're still at the define stage. It's a very important stage. So as most of the groups that I've been speaking to this week, you have your analysis, which is good. What we really want to do is to be very clear in defining what we have found and what's the direction that you want to take. That's why we've been using your how might we statements, your point of view statements. And to add to that, we're also going to be looking at how we can visualize the information that you've collected. All right. And that's this week's lecture. So the whole idea of your data visualization is to be very clear, providing clarity in terms of the data that you've collected. All right. Use all of these tools to be able to present your work clearly and be able to draw some connections between the relationships that you're seeing, draw some of the connections between the activities that are being done, or being able to map out some of the journeys that people are taking with some of the work that you've collected here. All right. So that's what we will be looking into for this particular week. Okay, so there are four methods that we're looking at. The first one I've already talked about it at the start of um, the class. So in week 2, week 1, we were actually looking at the relationship map, right? So I won't go through too much in depth with this relationship map, but essentially, basically, what you're doing is you're trying to identify some connections that your main users have with other stakeholders. All right. So when we're talking about the first mile, last mile journey, and you have a specific user, whether it is the people who are wheelchair bound, whether it is the users that are leaving their offices or leaving their homes to get to MRT stations, who are these different people or stakeholders that impact their journey? All right, or who are these people that interact with them while they are on their journey? Right, and the idea here is they want to be identify the different gaps, the different interactions that are happening, and we want to make sure that we maybe identify areas that we can improve on, or areas that we can be a little bit more provide some form of solutions for as well, maybe. All right. So relationship maps, you already have some experience with. We already spoke about it previously. And you can see these are some of the other examples that were there, all right? With your relationship map, who are your primary users, secondary users, tertiary users, as well as who were some of the influencers and supporters for this particular relationship map that you have there. All right, so this is a tool, this is a relationship map that you'll be using, and this is something that you want to present. So, like I said, this is a tool that's useful if you're trying to understand the different stakeholders. All right. So some of your projects actually have various stakeholders that impact the first mile, last mile journey. All right. If you're talking about the journey towards the train stations or away from the train stations, or the journey to um, the bus interchanges, or your other hubs, are they interacting with PMD users? Are they not interacting with PMD users? Cyclists, other pedestrians, you know, different organizations based on rulings. So you can also be able to build that in. All right. The other way you can use this to present the works that you've collected is to look at it as, okay, who is my primary target audience that I am looking to design my solutions for, or who is my main target audience that I'm looking to try and solve some of these issues that they have. Subsequently, once you've identified these primary target audience personnel, you can start looking at, hey, apart from my target audience, are there other people who might also be impacted by my solution that I am trying to look into, or my how might we solution or statement that I'm building, right? So you can start looking at it in that perspective to say that I'm looking at my primary audience, target audience, I have a secondary target audience as well, tertiary target audience, as well as who are some of the influencers and supporters that impact that. All right. So the relationship map is useful if you are looking at establishing many stakeholders within your project, as well as many interactions that play a part in impacting that particular journey that your user might be having. All right. So if you're looking at a lot of interactions, a lot of different stakeholders, this is a good tool that helps you present all your information that you have in that sense. All right. So that's a user relationship map. The next one that we have is a persona. So traditionally, a persona was something that has been used for many years by market research companies. So market research companies would constantly be presenting their data as a representation of that user group. All right. So when we create personas, it would always be, oh, this is the target audience that I'm targeting for my products. If I'm selling Tiffany and Co products, who is my general target audience that, or who is my persona that I'm trying to sell to? If I'm selling Apple products like Apple laptops or iPad Pros, who is that target audience or persona that I am selling this particular product to? All right. So traditionally, in market research companies, these personas were used as a representation of that target audience. All right. So this is not one person. This is a representation of that group of people. All right. So you can use it to identify and really present and say that, hey, this is a very clear target audience that I have. And using these personas, it is able to tell other people, tell your different stakeholders, tell your different project teams, different members in your team to say that we are going to be targeting this particular group. So in this example, as you can see, this Jill Anderson person, all right, she is 29, regional director, lives in Portsmouth in the United States, frequent traveler, archetype. Typically, she's a very organized person, practical, protective, hardworking. You have a little bit about her bio, a little bit of her personality, goals, frustrations, motivations, technology. So this is this is used for more of an application or used more for um, a product, right? You can also use some of the different in your persona that you're talking about with your target user, all right? You want to be able to put in more information that you have based on the research you've already collected. All right. So similarly, like what market research companies have done, you are also going to be presenting your persona through the research you've collected. All right. So if you're talking about the office worker, all right, are you looking at male, female office workers generally? If they are being impacted by the weather, their clothes, and so on and so forth. How is that happening? All right. What are the motivations? What are the things that impact them? What are the things that they are looking out for? What's the general bio? So when people look at this, they give a very clear overview on who is your user group, who is this persona that you're trying to solve that problem for. All right. If you go and look for many different examples of personas, there will be different information on different sets of information that is presented. Right. Yours may not be very technologically based, and you may remove maybe the technological competencies of that person. All right. Yours may be looking at more the type of traveler that this person is, what are the things that they are looking out for, what motivates them, what frustrates them, generally where are they living or where are they working. All right. So even if we have, for example, our group that's talking about Wilkie age, right? You can even have this persona based on a person who is working in Wilkie age. All right. Generally, what the age group is, where are they traveling to, where would they like to go, which is the what do they do on the weekends maybe, most of the nights do they travel home, um, which path do they prefer to take, what are they carrying, are they not carrying umbrellas, or are they generally carrying umbrellas with them, right? So this is a representation of that user group. Okay, use your data. What are most of the things that are being represented with your data? Use that to build your persona. All right, this is just another example from another company that is has created their persona. All right, similar things that we're seeing. You know, a photo that represents a general photo that represents that particular group, personality attributes, demographics, some bio, brands they particularly might have, like to own, or brands they typically will buy and purchase and use. All right. So all of these in pieces of information will be built based on the data that you've collected, which you already collected already as a group. All right. And you can build this as a representation of who the user group is. All right. So rather than saying, oh, My person is this particular age group. Most of the data we found is this. You just create this persona, and that will be a very clear representation of your target audience already, or your user group that you're talking about. All right. So you define the attributes that are important to you, and you use your data, you use your research to build this persona that you have. So just to backtrack a little bit, the relationship map that we were talking about, that was more of the different relationships or interactions or people or user groups that were there, right? This one you can tell the difference. The difference is really to say that I want to use this to represent my user group, represent that target audience that I'm trying to look into. Right? So they serve very different functions. So here you can see some of the different elements that you might put into your persona. All right, your persona group, you give them a sort of a title. All right, you give them a fictitious name. Maybe you generally can put them as job titles. All right, you can have major responsibilities, demographics, goals. You can look at the environment that they are used to. You can maybe have a quote that sums up what they represent, and you can have some casual picture that represents that particular group that's there. There are other things that you could put in as well, but like I said, put things that are related to your topic that you're looking at. All right, so this is another method. So this is the third method that we're looking into. This method is called an empathy map. All right, so the empathy map is looking at a specific scenario, a specific interaction, we would say. All right, and we're trying to give people a sense of what this user or what this person is going through. So just one example. For example, if we're waiting at a traffic light, all right, and typically waiting for traffic lights, there are things that a user might see, might feel, might hear, might do, and during this activity or during this particular interaction of waiting at a traffic light, what is it that the person is typically seeing? All right, they see PMDs drive past them, PMDs driving at high speeds. They think about how the waiting time is very long. They are hearing cars beep and horn. Other people talking about the traffic, and the most important part that where you can see being highlighted at the bottom, which is your pain points and your gain points. So pain points are things that we would like to reduce. What are some of the struggles that people are dealing with that we would like to reduce, and what are some of the gain points that we would like to increase? All right, so are there, if you're, this is just for example, one example that I can give is when you play games, all right? So when you're playing games at particular stages, all right, or at particular checkpoints that we have, all right, when you gain certain coins or you gain certain items, all right, that are, though these are positive experiences that you want to constantly increase for the user. Similarly, struggles in the game, stages that are too difficult, these are very pain points that you want to try and reduce as much as you can. But you don't want to take all of them that away. I mean, it's unrealistic if everything is just a positive, 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 right? But when in real life, there are going to be pain points and gain points for many different experiences. The example that we had was just, one of the many examples that we can look at. Just look at waiting at a traffic light. Okay, when you think about it, buying a mobile phone, when you think about it, moving into a new house, all right, you're trying to give a sense of the whole that particular experience, and what are the scenarios or what are the things that people think, feel, say, do within that particular scenario or activity or interaction that's happening. All right. So the empathy map is very scenario based. All right, and it's looking to put a person, someone, yourself, or the viewer of this empathy map into the shoes of that user to say that these are the things that they're experiencing. Okay, so this may be a little bit more on a emotional and a physical attributes. All right, so you're thinking about how they feel, what are the things that they say, what are the things they're experiencing. All right, a bit different from your personas and a bit different from your relationship maps. The purpose of this is to give a very clear representation of how people are feeling, what are the things that they do within that particular scenario or activity or interaction that's happening within that. Okay, so that's an empathy map. So these are just the examples that I've been talking about, the different attributes that we're talking about, what they say, what they do, what they think, they feel, see, hear, and like I said, the pain points and the gain points. All right, so the challenges, obstacles, and the goals as well. All right, so when you think about representing this and putting this forward, they will share some of the information that we've talked about with your point of view statements. Right, so some groups may feel that, hey, I'm with my point of view statements, I want to really tell people all of the insights that I have found from my research, and this may be a good tool to represent that or tell people about that. Right, so we're looking at the experiences, we're looking at maybe the challenges and some of the goals that people might be trying to achieve within those particular experiences or interactions that are happening. So this is the last one. This is the last tool that we have. The last tool that we have is a user journey map. All right. So within the industry, a lot of people are calling it different things, right? A user journey map, service blueprint, an experience map, and so on and so forth, right? But the word user journey map does encompass quite a lot of things here. Okay, it is a bit more time based, activities based, and it is fairly linear in the sense. All right. In the next slide, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So the pain points and delight points, these are things that you would like to showcase, right? And you want to showcase the different stages of this experience. We want to start looking at different touch points. We also want to look at what happens in the back end or front end, and you maybe want to be able to identify what the low points or positive or negative points that are there. So similar to your pain points and your gain points. All right. So within here, this is just an example for online travel agency. Okay, you can start to see that the 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 online travel agency, there are quite a few stages that you go for. For example, you start, oh, I decide to go to travel. I look at my options, I select where I want to stay, I book, I schedule all my meals, I plan my itinerary, I actually go to the location, I experience the vacation, I come home, and then I record or remember. So this is typically your journey map. All right, this is you're mapping out the full journey. So for yours, it may be a much shorter journey, but within those journeys there are different touch points. All right, and there are different stages. Okay, you as a group will define those stages. You will define what is happening. You will define what you are seeing. All right, you define the emotion that the user is going through, and you want to be able to map out this whole journey that's there. So this is just another example that we have here. All right, so this is going to a clinic. Okay, so you go to a clinic, you register, you register, you get called, you register a second time, you get called again, you get treated, you get discharged, you receive the bill. All right, you can start to see this is the things that are happening. All right, these are the things, these are the locations of where these things are happening. All right, and these are the actions Okay, so with these actions, what you want to do is you want to be able to highlight, hey, okay, there are all of these things that might happen. Talking to people, eating and drinking while they're waiting, so on and so forth. All right. And then the interactions that you're seeing that might happen, what are these things that you are that a person may go through with his journey. So this is just like another example in terms of that journey mapping. All right. You can start to see the similarities. We're trying to identify what are the different touch points. It means what are the different stages or phases of that journey. Right? A person typically when leaves the house, the decisions that they make when it rains, where do they go, where do they not go. All right. So you are using this journey map to map out what is the current situation of things that are happening. All right. When you have done your when you have done your outcome or your new outcome, you can create two journey maps. One is the current example, and the other one is your new example based on your solution that you have, the new journey that the person is taking based on the journey you have. So there are things that will change based on your new design outcome and how that plays a part with what you're trying to achieve from the journey that the user is being going through. Right. So this one, just for example, as you can see, if a person needs to go through a going on a flight, all right, before the flight, what are the things that they do? During the flight, what are the things that they do? And after a flight, the things that they do. You see every single thing like taking off, waiting for safety procedure, boarding the plane, sitting down, trying to sleep, trying to work, read, watch a movie, disembarking, getting to the airport, getting your tickets. These are all different touch points and stages of that journey that you are trying to showcase for that particular group of you, that particular user group that you have. So this one um, is very focused a bit more on the experience itself. So it's still a journey map. All right, you still see the different touch points that are there. It's just that it's designed a little bit differently from the previous one. All right, you have when somebody goes into IKEA, they have to park their car. They look through the decorations. They shop for the tools. They go around the tour. They look at some of the quality. They try out the works. They go to the canteen. They have to go through self-service, kids playground, so on and so forth. So you can actually start to see that the journey that IKEA wants the users to take is designed. It's been planned very well. All right. And one thing that's very important to look at with this particular user journey map, all right, is the experience rating. All right. So is the green that you can see is the positive things that are happening. People look at the trials, they get to eat the food, they end off with the ice cream or hot dog. These are your positive experience points. The negative things that are bad is oh, I have to wait for checkout, then I have to wait for delivery because the queue is very long. I have to arrange all the installation, who's going to come and install my things. I have to go through checkout. I have to find parking. All of these are negative points that we have. And you cannot take out all of that. But what you can see here is that the way it's been designed, IKEA does it so that, okay, I give you a negative pain point or a neutral experience point, but I will I will have a positive gain point after that so that you won't be worried so much about that negative point of finding a car park, that's so troublesome for me, right? And they want you to end on a positive note, right? Most people go to IKEA, they think of the cheap items that they sell, they think of the canteen that they can go to, and they think of the hot dog and ice cream that they'll be buying for themselves or their children, all right? Um, Most of the time the service queue is long, but people don't really complain about that so much because the way it's been designed for you, the experience has been designed for you so that there is you after you go through a negative experience, you will be experiencing something a bit more positive at the end of the day. All right. So this is just one example of how the different touch points are being planned and being presented and being designed for you, for the users of that particular journey. So from here, you can start to see how that is really something that they can engage with, and how they can look at the different touch points, and you can look at how the different experiences that the customer is going through with those particular touch points. All right. So this one is just another example of buying a mobile phone, right? You can start to see here the customer journey starts when they decide to buy a phone. Do they go through buying through the internet, or do they go and buy at a store? All right, the experience is very different if it's going through the internet or through the store. All right. One thing that we want to also be able to identify, it may not apply to your journey map that you create, but there are going to be touch points that your user sees, all right, but there are going to be touch points that your user might not see. How one example I'll give you is if you're ordering from McDonald's, all right, the touch point that the user engages with, all right, is you queuing up for the food. Now, if you use the self checkout kiosk, you're purchasing and you're ordering from the machine, the the POS, and then you're collecting your food, and then you're sitting down to eating. Those are all the front end interactions that you see. But there are back end interactions as well. So the back end interactions are things that impact you, but you don't see as a customer. The person who's cooking the food, all right, the delivery man that is delivering the goods to that particular outlet, all right, the way the bread the burger station is being built, how the burger is being built. All right, they have different drawers for the patties, the sauce, the vegetables, and the buns. All right, and that is being stacked as in the behind the scenes that you do not see. So there are some of these interactions that we know are happening, but the consumer or the main user does not see. Okay. So we've been able to go through four different methods. One method you guys have already some experience with, which is the user relationship map. That one is looking at the different relationships, the different stakeholders, and how they engage with each other. The next one is your persona, which is a representation of that target audience, representation of that group, representation through using a personification of your user group and your target audience. The next one that we have was the empathy map. So the empathy map was really looking at a specific scenario, all right, and looking at how people experience that specific scenario or specific activity. All right, you're looking at it from um, um, a very specific one-time interaction and how people experience that particular interaction. And then the last one was the user journey map. There's a lot of processes, a lot of touch points, a lot of different stages, and you're trying to map out the how people experience different touch points, different experiences. You're trying to map out what are some of the front end or back end interactions that are happening that the user sees or the user doesn't see, and as well as you're trying to map out some of the pain points or gain points or experience points that are there, based on whether these are positive or negative experiences. So as a group, you need to sit down and discuss and say that, okay, which tool do we think works best for us? All right, because when you're thinking about when you will be doing your presentation in week 9, you are going to be looking at using this as a tool to these data visualization tools to clearly represent your data that you have. Some of you might use all four if you have all of this information. All right. Some of you may be just you looking at the journey map, or some of you are just looking at the personas. All right. So depending on what you're trying to do, trying to achieve, trying to represent, and the one that fits the best to your project, use those. All right. So don't just say that, oh, I only want to use one. It's not so much of how many you use, it's how you use them and why you use these particular ones. All right. So hopefully that's helped you over this particular week, over the course of this week. When Friday comes, we are not doing presentation. Just a quick reminder: Friday comes, you will be showing me your user journey maps, your empathy maps, your relationship maps, and your personas. All right, you'll be showing me which of these tools you all feel is the best, which of these tools you all feel is the one that you'll be using to represent the data or helping you to better scope your project a little bit more. All right. So use these tools to, number one, help you to define your research and also help you to present your research to other people. All right. So if there are any questions, like I said, please feel free to contact me through email, um, or you can send me notifications through Teams or through the through X site as well. All right. If not, then I will see you guys on Friday. Thank you very much.